I will recognize Congresswoman Dingell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This hearing could not be more timely as we prepare to spring forward this weekend and witness the resulting impacts to our small businesses, economy, and public health. It's our responsibility to weigh the benefits of any potential changes to federal policy regarding standard and daylight savings time. As a member representing Michigan, as you cite in your testimony, Dr. Mallow, this hearing is incredibly impactful for my constituents, and I look forward to the discussion and listening to everybody this morning. This is a question for the entire panel. Do you believe that switching between standard daylight savings times twice a year ultimately has had negative health impacts on Americans? Yes or no? Professor Calandrino?
Yes, no, I certainly agree the biannual switch is bad, but permanent daylight savings time is the way to solve those health problems.
Thank you. Dr. Mallow?
I would say I'm on the flip side. I agree with Dr. Calandrino. We shouldn't go back and forth. I think from a health perspective, at least, the permanent standard time is the best healthy choice.
And Mr. Beckwith?
Thank you. I'm not a health expert, so I will abstain from answering that aspect, but I will point out that I fall in the middle between the other two panelists in saying that what we have created in our optimization of daylight really does take into account both of their opinions and tries to find the happy medium.
Which is why we're always back having hearings on this subject. As you all know, this issue hits very close to home, especially for those who have children, who have had to deal with cranky babies, or worse yet, cranky teens who haven't gotten enough sleep. Dr. Mallow, can you expand on the impact sleep deprivation has on our overall health, on our minds, our moods, and especially in young children for whom we know sleep is vital?
Yes, thank you for that question. When we're not sleeping well, it has a whole host of ramifications. A lot of them we've talked about already, but just to hit the high points again: obesity, diabetes, heart disease, even cancer and Alzheimer's disease have been linked to either sleep loss or that circadian misalignment, getting our sleep at the wrong time, getting our light at the wrong time. And then children are not exempt. Children are also super affected by these conditions, by depression. We heard earlier about the self-harm, the suicide risks, and by obesity and ADHD. I think it's just really important to recognize that it's a piece of the puzzle, but sleep is a super important piece of the puzzle toward promoting health. And that light in the morning really sets us up for healthy sleep.
So Dr. Miller, can you tell us though why it's harder for the body to adapt to daylight savings time than it is for the body to adapt to a new time zone when traveling?
Yes. When we travel, let's say from Michigan in the Eastern time zone, well, let's take the Central time zone, Chicago in the Central time zone to DC in the Eastern time zone. We are changing our clocks, but also our environment. So the sun cues are there to help us adapt and adjust. When we change our clocks this weekend, we're changing our clocks, but the sun isn't changing. The sun is still in the same place. And because of that, we're off. We're not able to adjust the way we naturally would if we had those environmental cues as well. So it's more detrimental. And then what people forget, they think it's just an hour, right? But it's actually almost 8 months of the year that we're off sync, that we're getting that sunshine when we shouldn't be. You know, we're 1 hour off, so we're not getting as much in the morning and we're getting too much in the evening.
So Dr. Mallow, you mentioned the increased risk of heart attacks and stroke during the springtime change to daylight savings time. What exactly about the loss of sleep causes this? And is this more prevalent among shift workers and those of lower socioeconomic status?
Yes. In a nutshell, because I know we're getting short on time, I would say it's a combination. It's hard to sort out the change in the sleep, the loss of sleep, as well as I mentioned, the circadian misalignment and being off schedule and off cycle. But we do see it more in vulnerable populations, as you mentioned. I mentioned the cancer was brought up in the article, and the elderly, and then people like shift work who can't control their schedules as much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.